Early morning on June 11th, a series of large explosions occurred in the town of Kotov, in Russia's Tambov region, amid reports suggesting that attack UAVs deployed by Ukraine targeted the Tambov gunpowder factory, a key facility in the Russian military's ammunition production chain. The location of the gunpowder factory in Tambov, Russia, is approximately 350 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. Previously, Ukrainian defense sources confirmed the Tambov factory is a production site for propellants used in various personal weapons and was attacked by unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, in January 2024 and November 2023. Another attack was recorded in July 2024. Sources from Ukraine's military intelligence agency, HUR, revealed that it was behind the incident. Another attack is believed to have occurred in January this year. Local Telegram channels reported, in the latest attack, approximately 10 explosions were heard in Kotov, and claimed that Russia's air defense system shot down several UAVs, attempting to attack the town. Meanwhile, Baza, a channel often providing Russian security news, reported that the main target of the attack in Kotov was the Tambov gunpowder factory. On Telegram, acting governor of Tambov region Yevgeny Pavlov described the incident as a large-scale UAV attack by Ukraine and stated that the attack was repelled at dawn. He reported that after a UAV was shot down, debris caused a fire, but firefighters extinguished it promptly. No casualties were reported. Law enforcement agencies are working at the scene. However, he did not directly mention the gunpowder factory. Pavlov also emphasized that the situation is under control. The gunpowder factory in Tambov is part of the state-owned defense conglomerate, Rostec of Russia. It is one of the largest facilities producing military propellants in Russia, supplying the Russian Ministry of Defense. This facility produces over 200 types of products, including propellants for all types of firearms, infantry and artillery, components for the Navy, Air Force, and 6 main types of armor-piercing ammunition for tanks. It is the only facility in Russia producing certain critical propellants of strategic importance. As of now, Ukraine has not issued any comments on the incident. Kyiv stated it is contacting sources to verify. On June 10th, in an interview with Russia 24, Belarusian Foreign Minister Maxim Rybakov criticized Ukraine's delay in receiving fallen soldiers. Following recent bilateral talks between Russia and Ukraine in Istanbul, Moscow announced plans to repatriate approximately 6,000 Ukrainian fallen soldiers as a unilateral humanitarian act. By June 7th, Russia attempted to hand over the first batch, consisting of 1,212 soldiers. However, Ukraine did not show up at the exchange location, citing the lack of agreement on the handover timing. Rybakov remarked that this action shows Ukraine is not truly ready for peace, as it does not bring political benefits or economic gains to the Kyiv government. He said, of course, it may not be politically advantageous to spend money and admit that 6,000 soldiers have died. But what about their families? What about their loved ones? According to Rybakov, Kyiv pledged to compensate the families of fallen soldiers with an amount equivalent to nearly $367,000. However, many families have had to wait a long time and face numerous administrative barriers. He emphasized that burying fallen soldiers is part of the Orthodox Christian tradition. In contrast, Rybakov stated that Russia has shown goodwill toward peace through proposals for prisoner exchanges and repatriation of fallen soldiers. The Belarusian foreign minister also noted Ukraine is only being pressured by the West to engage in negotiations with Moscow for tactical purposes to test Russia's reaction, to see if Russia is truly ready for peace talks or wishes to continue the conflict. Following the interview with Russia 24, Rybakov met with Russian Foreign Minister Yakub to discuss strengthening the strategic partnership between Russia and Belarus, cooperation in international organizations, and the situation in Ukraine. Recently, at a press conference in Brussels, Belgium, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announced the draft of the 18th sanctions package of the European Union against Russia, including additional restrictions on energy, banking, oil, and other sectors. The EC president stated, "We will increase pressure on Russia through sanctions with even tougher measures. Therefore, we are proposing the 18th robust sanctions package. Fundamentally, the EU is targeting sectors such as Russia's energy and banking. The 18th sanctions package is expected to ban European companies from participating in any transactions related to the Nord Stream pipeline, blacklist 77 oil tankers, despite efforts to impose a price cap, lowering the Russian oil price ceiling from $60 to $45 per barrel, add 22 Russian banks to the list of banks barred from using the international SWIFT system. The EU also proposes expanding the transaction ban on financial operators in third countries financing trade activities with Russia. According to von der Leyen, machinery, metals, plastics, and chemicals used as raw materials for industry, as well as dual-use goods, related to the production of weapons and drones, will be affected. The EU also plans to list an additional 22 Russian and foreign companies, providing direct or indirect support to Russia's military and industrial complex. These additions will bring the total number of sanctioned companies to over 800. EU countries will begin debating the draft this week. However, amendments to the oil price ceiling are a G7 measure. Therefore, this issue will be discussed at the G7 summit, scheduled for June 15th to 17th in Canada. After the 17th sanctions package against Russia took effect, on May 20th, Ukraine's allies stated that the next set of restrictions has been implemented. After Moscow repeatedly refused to accept a ceasefire, the Russian military continues to advance slowly along the front line toward Ukraine's Donetsk province and deeper into the Sumy province. Russia's Federal Security Service, FSB, recently announced the arrest of a Russian citizen working at the international airport in Sukhumi, Abkhazia, on charges of maintaining contact with representatives of Ukraine's main intelligence directorate GUR and providing information related to their work to the Ukrainian side. According to Russia's Federal Security Service, the detainee is a 45-year-old male working in the airport's technical and engineering department. The arrest was carried out in coordination with Abkhazia's security agency. Russia's Federal Security Service stated that the suspect prepared to hand over schematics of the Sukhumi International Airport, as well as the restricted access parking area nearby, used for receiving high-level international delegations, to Ukrainian intelligence. Russia's Federal Security Service claimed the individual actively planned to transfer schematics of the Sukhumi International Airport layout and the nearby restricted access parking area to the adversary. The security agency believes this act was intended to facilitate a potential sabotage attack by Ukraine. The investigation is ongoing to clarify the full scope and purpose of the thwarted plot. According to Reuters, around midnight on June 10th, local time, representatives of the U.S. and Chinese trade delegations announced the completion of 2 days of intense negotiations. In London, UK, U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Ludwig and Chinese Vice Minister of Commerce, Li Chenggang, jointly affirmed that both sides reached a framework agreement to implement the plan from a phone call between U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping on June 5th, as well as negotiations in Geneva, Switzerland, on May 11th. Ludwig shared that the world's 2 largest economies reached a handshake for a new framework. We will implement it after approval from President Trump. The Trump-Xi phone call changed the outcome. The U.S. Secretary emphasized the foundation for this new framework is to enhance U.S.-China trade. Ludwig stressed the new framework is only the first step. We still need to address negative issues. We hope rare earths and magnets issues will be resolved through this framework. U.S. Trade Representative James Sullivan also expressed optimism about cooperation with China and affirmed Washington is moving as quickly as possible and maintaining constant communication with Beijing. The Chinese side also made positive remarks. Li Chenggang stated that fundamentally both sides reached a framework to implement the consensus reached during the June 5th phone call, and in Geneva, they hope this progress could boost confidence and bring positive energy to global economic development. He also described the communication process between the 2 sides as professional, rational, thorough, and frank. This move marks a positive development in a volatile trade war between the world's 2 largest economies, which has escalated in recent weeks. Following a period of reconciliation, on June 10th, South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol and Chinese President Xi Jinping held a phone call to discuss various issues, including promoting bilateral relations to a new level. News agency Yonhap cited a statement from the South Korean president's office, stating that, during the phone call, Yoon Suk-yeol requested President Xi Jinping to play a constructive role in achieving the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula. In response, the Chinese leader affirmed Beijing will work to address this issue. Promoting peace and stability on the peninsula will serve the common interests of both South Korea and China. During the 30-minute conversation, President Yoon Suk-yeol also invited the Chinese president to attend the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit to be held in the city of Gwangju in southeastern South Korea in November. According to spokesperson Kang Young-young of the South Korean president's office, Yoon Suk-yeol expressed hope that both countries will actively promote exchanges and cooperation in various fields, including economy, security, culture, and people-to-people exchanges, based on a spirit of equality and mutual benefit. On the Chinese side, according to Xinhua news agency, President Xi Jinping stated that Both countries should promote their strategic partnership to a higher level and jointly uphold multilateralism and free trade, ensuring the stability of global and regional industrial supply chains. The phone call marked the first official dialogue between newly elected President Yoon Suk-yeol and Chinese President Xi Jinping. This was also the third dialogue of the South Korean leader with a foreign leader, following phone calls with U.S. President Donald Trump and Japanese Prime Minister Ishiba Shigeru since his election on June 3.